kicked Messi in the thigh. During the second half, Messi performed a slight tackle in an attempt to take the ball from Neymar Jr., who then got seriously injured and had to be rushed to the hospital.
Referee did not give him the red card after the tackle. Referee went to the hospital, waited 1.5 hours, then gave the red card.
Respectfully delayed the red card after the tackle, but only because of the injury.
Please continue.
This is Barwick, opined in the case of Moot versus Shelton, 1967.
Can you please take us through that case you were earlier?
Yes, Your Lordship. It is 9.2.
The facts were stated.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. In the facts, para 4, it is stated that Neymar Jr. had deliberately kicked Messi in the thigh and pulled his jersey, which
No, it's an exculpatory statement. Messi is claiming that he kicked me in the thigh. It's not an independent account.
Your Lordship, however, the fight needed intervention to stop from getting worse, and
Junior, I'm pretty sure kicking someone in the thigh would merit him a yellow or a red card. Was there any such disciplinary measure by the FIFA committee against Neymar for such an assault?
Your Lordship, there was disciplinary action because the fight was stopped by the teammates and the referee before it got worse.
Council, like the submission related to is not finding on this court, it's a NSW, New South Wales judgment of the High Court. So the Court of Appeal does not feel bound to follow that they have accepted the risk of injury if they're paying a party person.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. However, there is the appellant would like restrictions which need time to settle in the body, which was wasted when he was kept waiting in the hospital.
So you're telling me that if the weight wasn't there, then his leg could have been saved.
Yes, Your Lordship, there might have been a possibility that he.
Then why haven't you added the hospital in the?
As the infections directly mentioned in the facts, the appellant would like to stress on the facts in this motion. If Your Lordships do not have any more further questions, might I move to the next issue?
No, I mean, definitely your submission is persuasive. A noble sector's interference is indeed a serious threshold to cross. So I would like leave it to the bench to take this. Okay, please move on to the second.
I was asking for a chart for your para 1.4, which is basically liberating the chain of causation, which probably was not mentioned, but yes, please move on.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Neymar Jr. suffered from depression after 2 months, after getting out of the hospital 2 months, when he realized that he could not play due to the fact that his leg was amputated, which can be linked to the medical negligence of the hospital.
Counsel, what is the test for psychiatric injury?
Your Lordship, the test for psychiatric injury is the reasonable foreseeability.
Reasonable possibility of whom?
No, Your Lordship, the reasonable foreseeability of foreseeing the injury.
Counsel, I have a question. I think it was reasonably foreseeable for Messi to think that there can be an injury with the tackle that he gave.
Your Lordship, as stressed before, Messi only made the attempt to technically foresee that this would lead to an accident causing Neymar Jr. depression.
Just wrap up in one.
Sleep deprivation following his injury, he took sedatives which were prescribed to him to help him sleep. However, sedatives are known to induce long-term depression and anxiety and can thus account for a major reason Neymar Jr.'s depression rather than the direct action of Messi.
Okay, so it was the sedatives that caused him the depression, not the tackle.
It was one of the major reasons that caused him the.
One of the major reasons.
Okay, but not the reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Duly noted, Counsel. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Counsel.
Much of
Then counsel is called to
Good morning, Your Lordship. This is Abhishek, the second counsel from the appellate of
Lordship and ladyships.
Much obliged, Your Lordships and Ladyships. With the Lordships and Ladyships' permission, the council would like to present the third and fourth issue of today's submission.
What are those? What are your third and fourth issues?
third issue deals with the fact that Argentina is not vicariously liable for the damage suffered by Weimar Jr. And the fourth issue deals with the fact that Weimar Jr. is liable for defamation for Messi under Defamation Act 2015. With the Lordship and Ladyship's permission, the Council would like to move forward with the submission for deliberation. Much obliged. As respondents claim in the High Court, Argentina was held liable. However, it is very common to witness or foresee a risk of injury in a context more like football. The English court recognizes vicarious liability of the sports club for the actors for the actions of its players when they have negligently caused injury to another player during the course of the game. The vicarious liability is applied only when there is an employer-employee relationship and the employee acts within the course of their game and the employee has the control over how they are acting.
Please move over your counsel. Can you take us through it?
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Explain us how it's relevant in this instant matter.
Absolutely, Your Ladyship. It has been established in May 16, like the third line.
Paragraph
3.1. Much obliged, Your Lordship. Proceed. In the case of Ilya versus Saunders, Justice Drake held that merely making an attempt to take a ball will not amount to being reckless or negligent of the duty of care, which is why Liverpool Football Club was not held liable. In fact, the consequences of this tackle cannot be entirely foreseeable, as slide tackle is a common method used by football players to take control of the ball. It is unrealistic to hold a footballer's movement of passion and aggression to be overshadowed by a possible court case. In the case of Smaldon versus Whitworth, Chief Justice Lord Bingham took an approach that not proving liable for errors in judgment, oversight or lapses of which any participant may be guilty in the context of a fast-moving contest.
Wait. First of all, cited Elliott and Saunders High Court judgment. It said attempt to take the ball. Okay? It said making an attempt to take a ball will not amount to being reckless. But definitely the tackle, based on the circumstances, was very gruesome. So it goes beyond an attempt. It goes to commission. So that authority is disregarded. As for your second authority, which you cited, the Lord Bingham's judgment, what the fact was in Smaldon and Whitworth.
Relevant in our case.
I don't know the facts of that case to apply my judicial mind whether it is
Unfortunately, Your Lordship, the Council is not aware of the fact that
also not aware of this submission. Please proceed.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. The next sub-issue of 3.2 deals with the fact that the maximum of the doctrine of vicarious liability is brought into the fact that it has an implied assumption of risk, falling to non-fit injury, which enables a person to not recover from. In the case of R versus Barnes, the Lord Gentleman sets the precedent when there is an injury during the course of the game. Messi was given a red card by the referee after the injury that was suffered by Weimar Jr. in the second half. The court may take into account the decision of Court Justice Lord Wolf, where it was supported that even if the player is sent off the field for an injury caused to another player, there was some malice or intent found in the elements of the injury, as it was merely an attempt to take the ball.
The court may take into account the decision of where it was supported that even if the player is sent off the field for an injury caused to another player, there was no malice or intent found in the elements of the injury. So is it all injury or is that specific injury we're talking about?
Your Lordship, and what is actually the test? It was for a subjective test that happened during the
Subjective from whose perception?
subjective from the perception that the circumstances that happened during that game.
So may we take you back to the incident that happened before this game, where there is of malice that arises. So if we do consider that fact that the malice might be there because there was a fight, which might be the reason of malice, how would you submit?
Your Ladyship, I would like to point to the agreed facts of para 4, where it's clearly mentioned that it's from the facts, para 4, first page. Where it has been clear spectators' observation. So in case if your ladyship would like to point to the fact that there was a heated argument.
But counsel, just wait a second. Why are we discussing naked? We're in like the vicarious liability.
Exactly.
So this submission itself is like discarded.
Your lordship,
You were submitting on vicarious liability. You stated that for vicarious liability, three things: that one, employer-employee relationship; two, course of employment; three, control.
yes, sir.
Then tell us how it's been met.
Yes.
We don't need to know about the gruesome events.
Yes. Be very precise on the requirements that are needed for vicarious liability. Make your submission in that regard.
Your ladyship, in case of Argentina not being vicariously liable for the damages suffered by Weber Jr., as it has been already mentioned in the fact that Nessie is the star player of Argentina, so they already have a contractual relationship between them. So it is established that they have an employer-employee relationship. For the second part, it has to be that it happened during the course of the game. The action that was taken by Nessie, as it has been established, as it has been argued by my co-counsel, that Nessie did not breach a duty of care. So while the counsel would like to argue that the course of action that has taken place during the FIFA match, it was within the duty of care taken by Nessie and within his course of employment. So, and as for the third requirement, that if Argentina is liable for is in control of the actions taken by Nessie, Argentina is liable. Argentina is in control of directing Nessie to win the game. So in that case, even if Nessie takes an action, it has to be within his course of employability and within his scope of taking a reasonable duty of care.
So Ms. Moot, you will take any steps or measures against Nessie after this event, after what happened?
Your Lordship, that has not been discussed in the relevant facts.
That means they didn't do
Yeah,
that.
it's established that they didn't take
So
this.
he wasn't punished, reprimanded.
Your Lordship was nearly he was provided a red card during the
So
game.
it was one of that is impliedly authorized by the
Exactly.
employer.
So counsel, don't you think not taking any action against a player of that team amounts to approving or affirming what they did?
Your Lordship, for your question, Your Lordship, Argentina taking any action on behalf of Argentina can be set aside because the immediate action has been taken to make the game fair during the course of the game. So any action taken by Argentina had to be something that is related to any personal contractual relationship with Nessie, and it had to be believed by Argentina that Nessie had crossed duty of care and acted beyond his course of employment.
Okay, you may continue with your.
Council would like to move to the last issue of the appellate submission. Yes. Much obliged. It is humbly submitted by the appellant that the acts of slander and defamation by Weber Jr. are capable of being liable under the Defamation Act of 2013, which has caused serious harm. Furthermore, the appellant submits that the respondent has acted in violation of Section 2 and Section 3 of the Defamation Act of 2013. In the case of Nessie versus Argentina, due to defamation by Weber Jr., Nessie had to suffer from £300,000 of financial loss. In the Section 1 of the Act, it states that the serious harm will be said to have done only when there is a financial loss or is likely to have caused a financial
Can you please brief what are the things that we need to see to establish that there is information? What is the test or what are the requirements?
A test and the arguments that the counsel would like to set is that the defenses under the Defamation Act in Section 2 and
Not the
Section
defenses. I'm telling someone, okay, what is murder? Okay, intoxication, self-defense is murder, automatism is murder, loss of control is murder.
May I take another 2 minutes?
I'll give you 2.5 minutes. Still tell us the evidence.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. The defamation can be said to have done against a person when their reputation is at risk, when their personality, their characters have been questioned, and when their actions when their actions or inactions have been stated to be untrue. In the case of Nessie versus Argentina, Leslie and Argentina versus Baymar Jr. acknowledged from the council,
or is it an established case that you're referring to for it?
Your ladyship has been referenced from the draft defamation bill recommendation clause.
Draft defamation bill.
Yes.
Which is not even like disregarded.
Disregarded.
I shall apply for lordship. With your
We
permission,
haven't found any case law on this. The core issue of defamation, which you have appealed as to, not on the facts, but on law. And you come before us and say that, well, there is a draft bill and, we're gonna move forward with whatever is written.
I would like, the council would like to argue on the basis of statute in this case,
Okay. The name of the statute?
Defamation Act 2013.
Yes.
As simple as that.
As simple as that. Because of parliamentary sovereignty,
Yes, Your Lordship. If I direct the Lordship and Ladyship to issue of 4.2, where under section 2 and subsection 3 of the Defamation Act 2013, it states,
Thank you, Council, you may move.
Your Lordship.
Just tell us simply that whether this claim is maintainable or whether it's not. Just tell us the main point. Tell us the main point.
The main point, Your Lordship, that the council wants to state that the defamation done by Baymar Jr. it cannot be admissible under their defense of section 2 and section 3, as it is not a statement of opinion, or it is not or it does not, or it's not substantially true in order to be defended under the.
Okay, that the claim was not substantial. Just say one sentence by it.
Your Lordship, may I?
30 seconds.
National Pleasure. For the case of for it to be substantially true, there had to be the Defamation Act has to be proved on a balance of probability. And in this case, the relevant facts do not reflect any notion or any understanding that Nessie is an aggressive or has anger issues in general, or for a fact that there has been previous cases where Nessie has deliberately tried to harm his opponents, or has pleaded or ignited arguments where he has tried to put down his opponents during the course of the game.
Okay, we'll get.
Good afternoon, to the ladyship, to lordships. May it please the board, Qazi Mahmood Rahman, I appear as a senior counsel on behalf of the respondent, Baymar Jr. I will be addressing the first and second round of appeal concerning Mrs. liability under the clause of negligence for the physical injuries suffered by Baymar Jr. and for the injuries suffered by Baymar, while my co-counsel, Mohammed Safir, will be addressing the third and fourth round of appeal concerning Intra liability for the damages suffered by Baymar Jr. and Baymar's liability under the Defamation Act for the statements he made towards him. I'll be speaking for the duration of 12 minutes, while my co-counsel will speak for 10 minutes, and we respectfully reserve 3 minutes for rebuttal. If there are no questions in regards to the facts of the case, may the counsel start the submissions. The counsel will only direct your lordships and ladyship to page 11 of the written submissions, where the first round of appeal has been done.
First, tell us the.
Lordship, we humbly submit that the decision reached by the High Court shall be upheld, and Nessie shall be made liable under the law of negligence for the physical injuries suffered by Baymar Jr. As it is discussed under paragraph 1.1b.
And then the other ground, that's it. You have only one ground.
This is my first ground, Your Lordship.
No, we want to know all the grounds. That
What
we
are
want to
the
speak
All the
about.
ones, Your Lordship. Our first ground for appeal is that
We know the first ground. Second ground.
our second ground for appeal is that Nessie shall be found liable under the law of negligence for the psychiatric injuries suffered by Baymar Jr. The third ground being Argentina shall be found vicariously liable for the damages, including physical and psychiatric injuries suffered by Baymar Jr. And our fourth ground for appeal is that Baymar shall not be found liable under the thought of defamation undermade towards Nessie.
I think I submitted the wrong
the written submissions. The general duty of care is imposed upon every player participating in a sporting match. The Council relies upon the 2001 review case of Caroline McGuire and Fitzgerald to substantiate their claim. It was stated, and I quote, each contestant in a lawful sporting contest owes a duty of care to each and all of the contestants. The duty
Answer. What are the first issue? And please elaborate accordingly.
your ladyship, that Messi did fall into your care to very much which Messi breached for his acts, and Messi is the causal reason for the injury suffered by Neymar Jr. And lastly, it was foreseeable by Messi that the tackle would result in Neymar Jr. suffering an
It was
injury.
established
Yes, sir.
from one sportsman to another sportsman, you take care.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then this makes sufficient of the breach.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Counselor, I'm lost. Can you tell me where the memorial I should be looking at?
Your Lordship, the breach is addressed in page 12 in the written submissions. To discuss under paragraph 12, page 12, paragraph 1.2b of the written submissions. A similar tackle to our scenario was performed by the defendant of Hondaning East Bus, which resulted in the claimant suffering from a broken leg. The Court of Appeal held, and I quote, the defendant was in breach of duty as the tackle was reckless even with regard to the standards expected of a local league player, whilst the participant can be taken to accept the risks of injury inherent to such sporting activities. They do not accept the risk which occurs outside the rule of the game. As can be found in page 2, paragraph 6 of the compromise, Messi was shown a red card for his tackle, and thus the tackle was outside the rules of the game. In light of the principle laid on honor, we humbly plead that Messi did fall into the standard expected of him. The Council would humbly like to add Sir Donaldson, Master of Rose's speech on the decision of Hondaning Basi, where he held that the standard is objective, but objective in a different set of circumstances. Thus, there will be, of course, a higher degree of care required from a player in a first division football match than a player in a fourth division.
What was
football
the in this match that we are currently hearing this case on?
Your Lordship, in the as stated in the Moot compromise, paragraph 1, it is a tournament where all the local clubs take part in, and the winner is declared the best in the country. Thus, it is a national level tournament.
National level tournament?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Perhaps in sporting events, when fighting any sort of sports, isn't it not normal that we are putting ourselves in some sort of risk?
Yes.
Risks are usually protected in this, in your issue, your
Certainly,
matter.
Your Lordship. But as your ladyship's answer can be found in the decision of Hondaning Basi, where the court will be held, and I quote, that whilst participant can be taken to accept the risks of injury inherent to such sporting activities, they do not accept the risk of injury which occurs outside the rules of the game. Your ladyship, a red card signifies an illegal tackle. That means a tackle which is outside the rules of the game, for which Bayman did not consent. The extent of the consent is to be discussed. The council agrees that there is implied consent in sporting activities, but there is no consent for illegal activities performed by other players.
How do you judge between which is illegal and which is not over here? There is established rules or regulations that
Your Lordship, as per the general rules of football, the referee decides whether a tackle or any play or any act is legal or illegal. As stated in paragraph 6 of the Moot compromise, it was given a red card, and that signifies the injury. Furthermore, thus, thereby in light of the principle laid on convent, we humbly plead that Messi did fall below the standard expected of him. Furthermore, as discussed in page 13 of our written submissions, the but-for test laid down in the case of Fort Kirby McLean is satisfied, as but for Messi had tackled Neymar Jr. would not have suffered the physical injury. The mistreatment by the medical staff, as described in pages 2 to 3, paragraphs 7 to 9 of the compromise, will not break the chain of causation. My opposition relied upon the case of against Essex Area Health Authority to substantiate their claim that it indeed did break the chain of causation. However, the first instance decision of Wiltshire was appealed to the House of Lords, and the House of Lords absolved Essex Area Health Authority of liability. In our scenario,
Counsel, can you please tell me on the facts of this case of Houston versus East Berkshire Area Health Authority?
in Watson versus East Berkshire Area Health Authority, the hospital was not held liable even after the claimant being misdiagnosed for 5 days and suffering permanent physical disability. The reasoning provided by the House of Lords was that by the time the claimant had reached the hospital, he was, as a matter of decided fact, already disabled. It was followed by heavy D. On the balance of probabilities, it can be safely assumed that by the time Baymar had reached the hospital, there was nothing much the doctors could do. On my last contention on this issue, we believe that the tackle was carried out by Nessie when Baymar Jr. was running towards the goalpost with the ball. Nessie, the star player of Argentina, can be taken to have reasonably foreseen that a tackle in such a circumstance will result in Baymar Jr. suffering an injury. Thus, the test for foreseeability laid down in the wagon number 1 that some damage be foreseeable. We humbly submit that Nessie shall be made liable under the law of negligence.
Counsel, don't you think that tackle would lead to amputation of his leg is something which should not be foreseeable? That went a bit too far.
Your ladyship, what needs to be foreseeable is that some damage needs to be foreseeable, not the extent of the damage.
And counsel for that, which case are you might want?
Also number 2. So but yeah, as long as you can cite one.
Thereby we humbly submit, shall be made liable under the law of negligence as Nessie reached his duty of care towards Baymar Jr. through a gruesome slight tackle, which was outside the rules of the game, and the risk for such a tackle was not accepted by Baymar. It is reasonably foreseeable by a player of Nessie's standard that such a tackle might endanger the player on the receiving ends, and no intervening acts would be seen.
Counselor, no intervening acts. But yes, we heard that there was a 1.5 hour delay. There was a ping pong ball event with the nurse dropping Mr. Baymar Jr. on the hard concrete. We also heard that the onset potentially in 1.5 hours from the learned respondents, appellants. So, what is your take on the noble sector's intervening?
The council relied on the House of Lords decision of Hodgson against East Berkshire Area Health Authority, where the claimant, where the hospital was not liable even after the claimant being misdiagnosed for 5 days and suffering for permanent disability. The reasoning provided by the House of Lords was that by the time the claimant had reached the hospital, he was, as a matter of decided fact, already disabled. As can be seen in page 2, paragraph 5 of the complaint.
Is that the same? What we understand from it, if he was treated on time, his leg would have been saved.
Yes, Your
He is not, Hodgson doesn't actually apply to your case.
The facts support the objective principle that by the time when a person reaches hospital, the amount of improvement he can get through the care is applied. And the council does not deny that the injury, that the delay made the injury severe. It was stated in the case facts. However, the council would substantiate his claim through Lord Reed's dissenting judgment in the case of Hogan against Benedict West Hartley, where Lord Reed stated that for subsequent medical treatment to break the chain of causation, there must be grave lack of skill or care on the part of the doctors. It was also stated in
Dissenting judgment.
It's a dissenting judgment.
Not the opposite.
Your Lordship. However, House of Lords is persuasive that.
Okay, but they're not binding, is it?
Your Lordship.
Please proceed to the next round. We will listen to the other.
Your Lordship, may the council finish this
2 minutes.
Motion.
2.5. Let's give 2.5. We give 2.5 minutes.
If I may, the council will direct your Lordship to page 15 of the written submissions that the second round of appeal has been made.
Yes.
Your Lordships, that Nessie shall be found liable under the tort of negligence for the recognized psychiatric injury that was suffered by Baymar, as Baymar was a primary victim and the initial physical injury suffered by Baymar was foreseeable. Your Lordship, my learned friends here had relied upon two dissenting judges' decision in the case of Page versus Smith and stated the psychiatric injury must be foreseeable. However, it was not the majority judgment. The majority judgment was that some sort of damage be foreseeable. Lord Lloyd, in a majority judgment in the 1996 House of Lords case of Page versus Smith, stated in a clinical
Also, when
summary.
this happened the time he was injured, right? There was a lapse in time. Has to where there is a break in the chain of causation. The psychiatric injury happens way after the incident happened.
Leadership, as stated in page 3, paragraphs 11 to 13 of the Moot compromise, the causal reason for Beima's psychiatric injury was the fact that he could never play football again. And the fact that he could never play football again arose from the fact that he had lost a limb for which Nancy shall be liable. Thus, there is a causation.
Proceed.
Ladyship, Lord Lawyer, stated in a claim for psychiatric injury, primary victims are those who are involved in the accident or in the vicinity of suffering an injury. For primary victims, defendant is under a duty of care not because foreseeable physical injury. It is unnecessary to ask whether he was under a separate duty not because psychiatric injury. The injury suffered must be recognizable. Nessie tackled Beimar Jr., which resulted in the respondent suffering from a broken leg. Thus, Beimar was Nessie's primary victim. In this case, the first claimant succeeded in claiming damages against the first and second defendant. Lordship, may the counsel get an additional 2 minutes?
Just wrap up in one.
A similar tackle to our scenario had taken place in the case of Watson vs. Bradford, and in that case, Lord Justice Cooper held, and I quote, such a forceful high challenge was one that a reasonable professional player would have foreseen carried with it a significant risk of serious injury. Thus, by a professional player of Nessie's standard, it was foreseeable that this tackle would end up harming Beimar in some way or the other. It was established in the first reading that Nessie's tackle was outside the rule of the game, and thus similar to the defendant in Watson, it was foreseeable that Nessie catches tackle might result in Beimar suffering an injury. Your Lordships, additionally, it was established in the first reading that Nessie breached his duty of care, that he owed to Beimar, and her ladyship's question of causation established the chain of causation. And paragraph 13 of the Moot compromise provides that Beimar was diagnosed with depression by psychiatrist Dr. Bill. Thus, it was a recognizable.
Paragraph 13 of which line?
A moment.
So he was diagnosed on which date?
He was diagnosed on 15th of September.
And when did the tackle happen?
The tackle, the exact date is not mentioned in the Moot compromise. It happened in a tournament which started from the 1st of March or the same day.
Okay, so usually tournaments end with including the World Cup. So let us presume somewhere in between March. From March and September, how much time elapsed? March.
5 months ago.
5 months. So the onset of depression could also be because his girlfriend dumped him. It can be because he cannot go to the stadium. It can also be because the doctors took away all his money. Right. So how do you treat to that?
Lordships, first hypothetical scenario, it is not provided in our Moot compromise, thus the council cannot answer that question. On the second and third scenarios, the fact that was not
Council,
able.
I have to point to paragraph 11 of the Moot control. Probably stated that he was beginning to accept the reality and adjust to a new lifestyle. So the new lifestyle could include all of those factors.
Your Lordship, it could include,
Losing of stardom, obviously.
but it all originated from Nessie's tackle, which ended up Beimar Jr. suffering the injury.
So you are saying it was one whole thing. Okay. Which the prayers then conclude.
To conclude, we humbly submit that the Honorable High Court Judge did not err in finding Nessie liable under the tort of negligence for the psychiatric injury suffered by Beimar, as Beimar was Nessie's primary victim, who suffered a recognizable psychiatric injury, and the initial physical injury was foreseeable by Nessie. If there are no further questions on the first and second readings from your Lordships and Ladyships, the Council will pass the stage to his co-counsel for the rest of the submissions.
After 2 months, thank you. Should you the rebuttal should
The second respondent counsel will be to give her oath of allegiance.
Good afternoon, Your Lordship, Your Ladyship. May it please the court, my name is Amatul Nisa counsel appearing for the respondent. I will be addressing the third and fourth grounds of appeal concerning Argentina's vicarious liability for the damages suffered by Baymar Jr. and Baymar's defense under the Defamation Act 2014. With your lordships and ladyship's permission, the counsel would like to begin. Much obliged. The counsel would humbly direct your lordship and ladyship to page 19 of the written submissions. The counsel respectfully submits that the decision by the High Court be upheld and Argentina shall be made vicariously liable for the damages that were suffered by Baymar Jr. Following the test set out in various claimants versus the Catholic Child Welfare Society, two key submissions will be made. The first is the employment
Counsel, can you tell us
relationship.
the fact system of the Catholic Child Welfare Society?
Certainly, Your Lordship. In the 2012 Supreme Court case of various claimants versus the Catholic Child Welfare Society, a large number of men, claimants, alleged boys, alleged historical sex abuse at St. William, a school for juveniles, by brothers of the Institute who were the headmaster and staff. The Institute did not own the school. However, their members acted as the headmaster and teachers of the school. The members were contractually employed, not by the Institute, but by St. William. And so, it had been held that the owner of St. William
They were not
was
contractually employed, they were independent contractors. If they were employed, then we would not be having this case. They were just independent contractors. Like, take this class, take $500, go. You are not employee, you get tax benefits, you get pension, you get living allowance, no.
We have extracted the principle from this case, which is the two-stage test, which the first stage is the employment relationship between Nessie and Argentina, and the second stage is that the tort was committed in the course of the employment.
Counsel, I'm just going to disregard this case. Do you know why I asked you this fact of this case? Because it's clearly seen that Messi was an employee of Argentina. So he was not a, come Messi play a match, I'll give you 10,000. It was more like there was a salary and he gets bonuses whenever he performs well. So this case establishes relationships which are not employment per se, but akin to employment. So with that note, that is not, we should not consider this case. There is more important cases that you can cite in this regard. Please, proceed with your submission.
Much obliged. If that issue is disregarded, I shall move on to the next issue, which is the tort that was committed. The element was addressed and established in the first and second pleadings by my learned senior, so the wrongful act in question has already been established. Now comes the course of the employment. The House of Lords reviewed the application of the Salmon test in the Lister versus Heston Hall case.
Can you take us through that please?
Certainly. In this case, the defendant ran a boarding house and employed a warden to run the house. The claimants were sexually abused by the warden and sued the defendant for vicarious liability. The Court of Appeal held that the defendant was not vicariously liable as the warden's acts could not be regarded course of employment as an unauthorized mode of carrying out his authorized duty. However, the House of Lords held that the defendant is vicariously liable since the warden was acting in the course of his employment when committing sexual abuse.
Relating to Mr. Messi.
If we apply the Salmon test in our instance, Messi had performed a slide tackle, which is quite a common move used in football. It would have been considered legal play had he succeeded to execute Baymar to the extent of a life-altering injury. Thus, Messi's tackle was in the course of his employment, as it was a wrongful and unauthorized mode of doing something that was authorized by Argentina. It refers to the 1986 case of Ben Colin versus Gary Smith and Middlesbrough FC to substantiate. Thereby, Counsel Humphrey, it is in page 20 of the written submissions. Page 20 paragraph. Humble apologies, Your Lordship. It is in page 21 of the written submissions, paragraph B. Human protection. Thus, the Council humbly submits that Argentina shall be made vicariously liable for the damages suffered. If there are no further questions regarding this issue, the Council would humbly direct Your Lordship to page 22 of the written submissions.
Okay, so it was an illegal and negligent tackle of Smith, and he admitted But the Middlesbrough FC, right, in this case, well, yes. But here, Middlesbrough FC admitted liability. But Argentina, as far as I can hear from the submissions, they are not admitting liability. They deny liability vehemently. They even tried to pin it on the doctors. So what do you have to say about that?
Lordship, I would like to assert the principle laid out in Lister versus Heston Hall Limited, where it is said, quote, the employer does not have to be found in it is simply liable for the negligent conduct of its employee. So we have established that Messi has indeed conducted a negligent play. Thus,
are you aware of the 2020 Supreme Court judgment of Mohammed versus Morrison?
Unfortunately, no.
As far as I recall, from my reading, it has been modified by the case. Vicarious liability is not as it seemed from the Lister, the boy sex abuse case, which has taken a different turn. So I respectfully state that that should have been updated in your submission. Anyways, please proceed with your submission.
If there are no further questions, the council would humbly direct your motion to page 22 of the report. Your Lordship, the council humbly pleads that Weimar shall not be held liable for defamation against Messi under the Defamation Act 2013, as he will get the defense of honest opinion held. The statutory defense of honest opinion is laid out in section 3 of the Defamation Act 2013. To successfully prove this defense,
Can you please enlighten us on the elements of defamation before we move on to the defense, and as to how it is not being fulfilled here?
Your Lordship, the elements to establishing defamation is that the defamatory statements would have to be made referring to the claimant while being published. So these elements have been fulfilled by Weimar Jr. Although we are claiming that he will get the defense under section 3 of the Defamation Act 2013.
You admit all the 3 elements of defamation?
Yes, sir.
Admitted. Okay. But then you want to justify your position by relying on the defense.
Yes, sir.
Could I sum it properly?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed to justify your position.
The first element of the defense is pursuant to section 3, subsection 2 of the Act, where it is stated that the statement complained of must be an opinion. In our instance, Weimar did not convey a statement of fact. The council submits that he is merely commenting and expressing his thoughts regarding it.
What was the defamatory statement?
Your Lordship, if I could refer you to page 3 of the report. Paragraph 14. Paragraph 14, line 2. If I could read it out for you. At the press conference, Weimar Jr. publicly claimed that Argentino player Messi always injures his opponents, and Weimar is not his first victim in this regard. Weimar Jr. also claimed that Messi has anger issues and is inherently an aggressive person. According to Weimar Jr., Messi is often seen to ignite arguments just to harm his opponents. These were the defamatory statements made by Weimar Jr. However, the council is submitting that he is merely commenting his thoughts regarding.
Would you please telling us this person's always injuring his opponents? It's just not a mere opinion.
Your Lordship, if you allow actually in submissions.
And also the fact that this opinion has caused
This was not stated to a friend in a friendly banter. It was stated in a press conference with the media and everyone involved present. Right? So the implications of a statement in the nature of always harms his opponents and aggressive, what is this? Inherently aggressive. You know what inherently means? From born he is aggressive.
These are quite strong statements. These are not only he's stating his opinions.
Yes, Your Lordship. However, if you allow the council, the basis of the opinion, why Weimar formed the opinions will be regarded. If I could request an additional 3 minutes to end my arguments.
Yes,
The next element is regarding the question that has been asked. The next element is the basis of the opinion, which is provided under section 3, subsection 3 of the Defamation Act 2013. Lord Phillips, in the 2011 Court of Appeal case of Joseph versus Fuller, justified the need for this element. It is so that the reader may understand what has led the commentator to form the opinion and the reasoning for expressing his views. Baymar's statements can be proven to have factual basis. In page 2, paragraph 4 of the compromise, of the Moot compromise, there was a heated argument between Nessie and Argentina, which was, I believe, was mentioned in the judicial intervention, between Nessie and Baymar. It can be seen that Nessie initially induced the argument by claiming accusations against
That was
Nessie.
one of an incident, counsel, right? Not that Mr. Nessie does it in every game that he plays, isn't it? That was one of an occasion that
Much obliged, Your Lordship. However, we have been given very limited information in the Moot compromise, and we are only relying upon the facts that have been provided to us. So, in terms of the basis of the opinion, this is where Baymar could have held that Nessie's aggression, or more specifically his behavior, is something to be of concern, something of great concern. It can be seen that Nessie induced the argument, bringing accusations against Baymar. It should also be noted that the level of the intensity of the fight speaks to the aggressive nature of Nessie. As Baymar himself suffered the gruesome injury by Nessie, it can be understood why he might form the opinion relating to Nessie's behavior, more accurately, his aggression. Hence, it is clear that Baymar had sufficient factual basis for sharing his opinion. Lastly, Section 3, subsection 4 of the Act provides the need to show that a reasonable, honest person might hold the same view as Baymar. In the 2007 Court of Appeal case of Associated Newspaper versus First Time, an objective test was applied, where the court asked if the view be honestly held by someone who had seen the opera. The court answered yes. So the defense of fair comment was upheld, which is now known as honest opinion.
Still, we're telling you that it is firstly, it's not an opinion. Secondly, it's not a comment. Okay? There is another basis of lawful defense that you have to rely on. You know what are the lawful defenses? The first lawful defense. What
Is Your Lordship referring to the statement of defense for truth?
Yes.
Much of
Can you in any way substantiate the lawful defense of truth?
Your
Because
Lordship,
that is the only one that's going to meet the idea. Anything else is dubious.
no apologies. If I could request an additional minute to answer Your Lordship's question.
30 seconds.
Your Lordship, the council could have applied the defense of truth if we had gone out of the scope of the Moot problem. In the statements that were made by Baymar Jr.
No, I can make a submission for truth. I think there is enough in the facts to put a case on a balance of probability. I mean, I understand the compulsion to prove everything to 100%. But you see, it's a tort case. The standard of proof is not 100%, it's 51 or just a hair above 50. Even if it's not in your memorial, can you make a case standing here regarding the truth? Let's see.
Your Lordship, the council humbly submits and believes that these opinions were honestly held, and thus next Baymar will get the defense on honest opinion under section 4. And that's not.
It's an objective. Okay, thank you.
Shall I read on?
It's okay.
Much obliged.
There's a comment.
The appellant counsel is called into podium to give her
To protect the press. When people are writing editorials, right? It's not when I think
Lordship's permission, the council of Captain would like to submit the rebuttal in this submission. Much obliged. May the council request your Lordship's and ladyship's to turn to the issue 1.3 in the sub-issue of F, where my learned friends have tried to argue on the fact that the medical negligence that happened after the injury took place wasn't a grave lack of skill or care. In the case of Nessie versus Argentina, it has been established on the agreed fact that Baymar was dropped by the male nurses, and the medical staff and the hospital staff kept him waiting for 30 minutes. This shows lack of care on part of the medical professionals. Moving on, after the X-ray was done, Baymar heard a junior doctor misdiagnosed that his leg is really fine, and and is merely a fracture, then another 1.5 had passed. The lack of skill on behalf of the doctors. Thus, using this argument provided by the respondent, the appellant is to establish under rebuttal that medical negligence do actually break the chain of causation, thus making Nessie not liable for psychiatric injury sufferable by Baker Jr. The lordships and elections do not have any further question related to the rebuttal. The council would like to move on to the fact of 1.3 subpoint B, where in the case of
Whose memorial? Yours or theirs?
the respondent's memorial.
Yeah, exactly. I understood, that's why I asked. This is
1.3 D, subpoint D in page 30.
Hudson versus East.
In the case of Watson versus East, the reason your lordship, the council of council.
You already have 1 minute left, so finish
Finish.
first.
Much welcome. In the case of the House of Lords, the reason provided by the House of Lords was that the medical negligence was not proved because by the time the claimant had reached the hospital, he was already in fact disabled. In this case, in the case of Nessie versus Bamer Jr., here Bamer Jr. was injured, not disabled. He had to wait for a long time, which ultimately led him to be amputated by the advice of a senior doctor. So this argument that the fact that he was already disabled cannot be taken into account as a matter of fact he was not. This concludes my rebuttal.
The respondent counsel is called to the podium to give his rebuttals.
And the ladyship's permission, I can't start with your rebuttals. Your lordship and ladyships, my learned friend had first argued that under paragraph 1.3f of our written submissions, we mentioned the case of Hogan against Benedict West Hartley, and my learned friend referred to the Moot compromise, and she contended that there.
Do not rebut their current arguments. Rebut their arguments.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
You may do this if you have time.
At the end,
Yeah,
yeah.
much obliged, Your Lordship. On the first reading, the main contention by my learned friends was that the defense of voluntary non-fit injury will apply, and they relied upon the Australian High Court case of Roots against Shelton, and they stated that by engaging in a sport, the participants may be held to have accepted the risks which are inherent in a sport. However, the extent of the consent, as discussed by our oral pleadings, is to be discussed. Court of Appeal in the case of Conan against Basi held, and I quote, it is under page 12, paragraph 1.2b of our written. Whilst a participant can be taken to accept the risks of injury inherent to such sporting activities, they do not accept the risks of injury which occurs outside the rules of the game. And as established in the first meeting, and as stated in page 2, paragraph 6 of the Moot compromise, Nessie was shown a red card as a result of his tackle, and thus his tackle was considered as a foul and illegal play by the referee of the match. Thus, it was outside the rules of the game, and for which Baymar did not consent. Thus, the defense of consent shall not apply. If, with your permission, I move on to their second submissions, my learned friends relied upon two dissenting judges of the case of Page against Smith, who stated that the psychiatric injury suffered must be foreseeable by judgment. In the majority judgment, Lord Lloyd stated, and I quote, in a claim for psychiatric injury, those who are involved in the accident or in the vicinity of suffering an injury, for primary victims, defendant is under a duty not to cause foreseeable physical injury. It is unnecessary to ask whether he was under a separate duty not to cause psychiatric injury. And as established in the second pleading, Baymar himself was Nessie's primary victim as he endured bodily harm. And as also established in the first pleading, and as substantiated by the claim of Watson and Bradford City AFC against Gray and Huddersfield Town AFC, Nessie did foresee the tackle. Thus, the initial physical injury was foreseeable, and Nessie shall be liable for the full extent of the damage as stated in the case of Page versus Smith. May the counsel get an additional minute for cerebral.
30 seconds.
Much obliged.
Please sum up.
Your Ladyship, the first rebuttal by our learned friends was that of our 1.3F of page 13 of our written submissions, where they stated the case of Hogan against Bentic was Hartley and argued that lack of skill or care was shown on our instance. However, the principle set out by Lord Reed was that a grave lack of skill or care must be proven, not any lack of skill or care. It was later supported by may the counsel rest the submissions. Much obliged.
The court is adjourned. All requests are requested to leave the